Imagine this. You hand over your life savings to a man, a legend on Wall Street, a former chairman of NASDAQ, a reputation so spotless that people begged him to take their money. For decades, he delivers steady returns, no volatility, no drama. And then, one morning in December 2008, your phone rings. There's no money. There never was. $65 billion. Gone. This is the story of Bernie Madoff. Welcome to the Wealth Crime Lab. Let's get into it. To understand how Bernie Madoff could steal $65 billion, you first have to understand who he was, and more importantly, who people believed he was. Bernard Lawrence Madoff was born in 1938 in Queens, New York. He grew up in a working-class family. His father had lost a brokerage license, so from an early age, Bernie understood one thing clearly: money was power, and reputation was everything. In 1960, at just 22 years old, he founded his own firm with $5,000. $5,000. That is where this story starts. In those early years, Madoff was actually legitimate. His firm became a pioneer in electronic trading. It helped build the technology that would eventually become NASDAQ. By the 1980s, his firm handled up to 5% of all trading volume on the New York Stock Exchange. He became chairman of NASDAQ twice. He served on regulatory committees. He advised the SEC. He was inside the system, one of the architects of modern finance. And that is exactly why the fraud worked. When you build that kind of credibility over decades, people stop asking questions. Here is where it gets complicated, because no one knows exactly when the fraud began. Madoff himself claimed the Ponzi scheme started in the early 1990s, but federal investigators believe it could have started as far back as the 1970s. Some think it may have never been legitimate at all. So what exactly is a Ponzi scheme? Simple. You take money from new investors and use it to pay returns to earlier investors. There is no actual investing happening, no real trading, no stocks being bought or sold, just money flowing in one door and out the other, with you skimming off the top. The genius of a Ponzi scheme, and the terror, is that as long as new money keeps coming in, it looks completely real. Investors see statements, they see gains, they reinvest, they tell their friends. The scheme feeds itself. The fatal flaw? It requires an infinite supply of new money, and that does not exist. But Bernie had something most Ponzi schemers don't: a legitimate-looking investment firm, decades of credibility, and a strategy so vague it almost seemed designed to avoid scrutiny. Let's talk about this so-called split strike conversion strategy, because this is central to how the fraud survived for so long. When wealthy investors asked Madoff how he consistently delivered 10 to 12% annual returns year after year, recession or no recession, he would explain his method in vague, sophisticated-sounding terms. He claimed to buy large-cap stocks, blue-chip companies, while using options to hedge against losses and lock in gains. On the surface, this sounds plausible, but the numbers never added up. Several sharp financial minds ran the math and came to the same conclusion. The options market Madoff claimed to be trading in was not even large enough to accommodate the size of his fund. Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst, figured this out in 1999. In 4 hours, he looked at the returns, ran the numbers, and concluded it was mathematically impossible. He submitted detailed reports to the SEC in 2000, 2001, 2005, and 2008, spelling out exactly why Madoff had to be running a fraud. The SEC investigated twice and found nothing. We will come back to that, because it is one of the most infuriating parts of this entire story. Here is one of the most psychologically brilliant elements of what Madoff did. Pay close attention, because this is something con artists across history have used over and over again. He made the fraud exclusive. Madoff did not advertise. You could not just walk up and hand him money. You had to be referred. You had to be connected. You had to be part of the right country clubs, the right social circles, the right philanthropic networks. Being accepted as a Madoff client felt like joining an elite club. People considered it an honor, a privilege, a sign that you had arrived. And when something feels exclusive, when you had to fight for it, you are psychologically far less likely to question it. There is a term for this in behavioral economics: effort justification. The harder you worked to get something, the more you value it, and the more you will defend it, even when evidence suggests something is wrong. Madoff weaponized this. His investors were not just clients. They were believers. They were loyal. And they recruited their own friends and family, which meant Madoff barely had to lift a finger to grow his pool of victims. This is how you build a $65 billion fraud. Not with clever trading, with psychology. Now let's talk about the infrastructure that made this possible at scale. The feeder funds. Madoff did not only take money directly from wealthy individuals. He worked through a network of feeder funds, investment vehicles that pooled money from thousands of investors and handed it to Madoff to manage. These funds were run by prominent names who added another layer of legitimacy. Fairfield Greenwich Group had over $7 billion invested with Madoff, roughly half of all the assets they managed. There was Tremont Group, Banco Santander, Kinggate Management, BNP Paribas, HSBC. Some of the most respected names in global finance were funneling money to Madoff and charging their own clients' fees. For doing so, these funds received steady, consistent returns, which they passed along, minus their cut, and everyone was happy. The uncomfortable truth: many of these feeder funds performed minimal due diligence. They did not verify the trades. They did not audit the positions independently. They relied on Madoff's reputation and their own fat fee income to justify looking the other way, whether that constitutes willful blindness or simple negligence. is something the courts argued about for years. Either way, billions of dollars flowed in, and nobody asked hard enough questions. Inside the Lipstick Building, in Midtown Manhattan, the 17th floor, was where Madoff ran the fraud. The legitimate trading business was on other floors. The two operations were almost entirely separate, with the 17th floor operating like a secretive back room, staffed by a small, loyal team, sealed off from the main firm. The key figure there was Frank DePascali, Madoff's right-hand man, who had worked for him since 1975, and who managed the day-to-day mechanics of the fraud. The team fabricated trading records, backdated transactions, generated fake account statements. They used historical price data to manufacture trades that appeared to have been executed at optimal times, producing returns that looked uncannily consistent. Investors received paper statements showing their portfolios growing steadily, blue chip stocks, option hedges, all perfectly plausible, all completely fake. The paper trail was meticulous because Madoff was meticulous. He understood that fraud lives or dies in the details. If a statement looks right, most people will not dig further. And if you are operating on the assumption that nobody will ever verify the actual trades with the exchanges, then you can run this for 50 years. Let's talk about the SEC, because this part of the story is almost as astonishing as the fraud itself. Harry Markopolos was not just some random observer. He was a derivatives expert, a certified fraud examiner. He had worked on Wall Street for years and understood option strategy at a technical level. In May of 2000, he submitted his first report to the SEC's Boston office, titled bluntly, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." He laid out 19 specific red flags: mathematical impossibilities, regulatory inconsistencies, structural implausibilities. He heard nothing meaningful back. He resubmitted in 2001. In 2005, a 21-page report delivered directly to the SEC's New York office. Nothing. In 2008, months before the collapse, he tried again. What went wrong at the SEC? The examiners assigned to review Madoff lacked the technical sophistication to evaluate complex derivative strategies. There was also what investigators called a deference to authority. Madoff was a legend, a former NASDAQ chairman. When he explained his strategy in vague terms, examiners did not push back. They deferred. This failure had catastrophic consequences. If the SEC had acted on Markopolos' 2000 submission, the fraud would have ended at roughly $3 to $7 billion. Instead, it grew for 8 more years. The system designed to protect investors failed them completely. Before we get to the collapse, I want to take a moment, because behind the $65 billion number are real people whose lives were destroyed. Madoff's victims were not all hedge funds and billionaires. Many were retirees, Holocaust survivors, charitable foundations, ordinary people who had saved their entire lives and trusted a man who seemed by every measure, trustworthy. Elie Wiesel, the Nobel Prize-winning author and Holocaust survivor, lost his entire personal fortune and virtually all of the assets of his foundation. He called Madoff a thief, scoundrel, criminal. The Jet Foundation, a respected charitable organization, was forced to close entirely. Gone. The Chai's Family Foundation, which had provided hundreds of millions to Jewish causes in the former Soviet Union, collapsed overnight. Thousands of individuals lost everything. People who thought they were financially secure for retirement suddenly had nothing. Some took their own lives. Others, in their 70s and 80s, were forced to return to work. The average recovery for victims has reached roughly 70 to 80 cents on the dollar. For some, that is meaningful. For others, the emotional damage is something no restitution can ever repair. By 2008, the walls were closing in. The global financial crisis hit. In the fall of 2008, markets collapsed, panic spread, and suddenly, investors who had been perfectly happy leaving their money with Madoff wanted it back. In November 2008 alone, clients submitted redemption requests totaling approximately $7 billion. Madoff did not have it. He had never had it. For weeks, he scrambled. He talked to banks. He explored options. He tried to find a way to keep the plate spinning just a little longer. He could not. On December 10th, 2008, he called his sons, Mark and Andrew, to his penthouse apartment. He told them the investment advisory business was one big lie, that it was basically a giant Ponzi scheme. His sons, stunned, called their own attorney, and the attorney contacted the FBI. The next morning, December 11th, 2008, federal agents showed up at Madoff's apartment. "We are here to find out if there is an innocent explanation," one agent said. Madoff replied, "There is no innocent explanation." He was arrested. That morning, Bernie Madoff did not go to trial. He pleaded guilty. On June 29th, 2009, Judge Denny Chin sentenced Bernard Madoff to 150 years in federal prison, the maximum possible sentence. Madoff was 71 years old. He died in federal prison on April 14th, 2021, at age 82. The Madoff scandal left a deep mark on finance, regulation, and human trust. Irving Picard, the court-appointed trustee, tasked with recovering assets for victims, embarked on one of the most aggressive legal campaigns in financial history. He sued banks, feeder funds, and even some early investors who had withdrawn more than they put in, clawing back billions in profits that were in effect stolen from later investors. As of today, the Madoff Recovery Initiative has recovered and distributed more than $14 billion to victims, an extraordinary achievement, though still a fraction of the total losses. The SEC, deeply embarrassed, overhauled its examination procedures. New whistleblower rules were established, including financial rewards for people who bring securities fraud to regulators, a direct response to how Markopolos had been ignored for years. Frank DePascali, Madoff's key lieutenant on the 17th floor, cooperated with prosecutors and pleaded guilty. He died of cancer in 2015. Before sentencing, Mark Madoff, Bernie's eldest son, died by suicide on December 11th, 2010, exactly 2 years after his father's arrest. Andrew Madoff died of lymphoma in 2014. The human wreckage of this fraud extends far beyond the balance sheets. So what do we take from all of this? Lesson 1. Consistent, uninterrupted returns are a red flag. Real investing involves volatility. Any strategy claiming steady returns in all market conditions should be interrogated aggressively. Lesson 2. Exclusivity is a manipulation tactic. The feeling that you are lucky to be allowed in is designed to suppress your critical thinking. Lesson 3. Complexity is not sophistication. When someone cannot explain clearly how your money is being invested, that is a problem. Lesson 4. Regulatory oversight is not a guarantee. The SEC failed spectacularly. Do your own due diligence. Verify independently. Lesson 5. Social trust is the most dangerous ingredient in fraud. Your neighbor's endorsement is not due diligence. Bernie Madoff was not a genius. He was a patient, meticulous fraudster who understood human psychology better than most. The wealth crime never announces itself. It wraps itself in legitimacy. It shakes your hand at the country club. It sends you quarterly statements that look perfect. That is why we are here at the Wealth Crime Lab, to pull back the curtain, case by case, fraud by fraud, so that you see what is underneath before it costs you everything. If you found this valuable, subscribe, drop a comment below with who you want us to investigate next, and share this with someone who needs to know this story. Until next time, stay skeptical.